Very good. Okay, just to note that the development contributions rebate policy paper number 30 is being deferred until the next meeting. The attachments for the report weren't circulated in time, so that will be held over until the next meeting. Regulations and consents, is it going to take very long?
No.
Can you move your amendment quickly? Have you given it to staff?
I've given staff the amendment, should be up there now.
Okay.
Basically, for the second time in my career, I've voted against my own committee's recommendation. This basically stemmed from an objection to elected members being excluded from the decision-making process. We've got Section 95 decisions, we've got Section 104. Following our meeting, staff did go away and do some further thinking on how those concerns could be addressed, and they've come up with an amendment which I have before you today, which basically allows hearings panels to continue to be used on Section 104 decisions. That's a substantive decision-making process if it's required. There's not many hearings that are used these days, but substantively, I suppose I'm conceding in point 1 that staff will make the decision on notification. I do have some comfort, I suppose, in point 5 that a list of applications that are being considered will be sent to the relevant community board, and also the entire list of applications be available to the Regulations and Consents Committee. So it's a concession on part of staff. I'm comfortable with it, and I would move that resolution be accepted.
Do I have a seconder for that? Tim Scandra. Is there any discussion? Yanni?
I just wanted to check, because we've had a lot of concerns about notification practices as well, and I want to kind of understand how this will improve our notification practice to communities who feel affected by the decisions and feel excluded from participating.
I think I could say that Section 95 decisions, they have to be made according to the RMA and the planning rules and regulations. To have a community board member or a city councillor actually making an objection to a Section 95 clarification or notification on the basis of anything other than the facts before them is not acceptable. So I'm quite comfortable that we have a process in place at the moment where notifications are considered by an officer subcommittee. They are required to make that recommendation on the basis of the information put before them. It is robust.
Hang on, does this decision have to be made today, or could it be deferred till next meeting?
Oh, I think it can be made today.
No, it's going to take time. So if it doesn't have to be made today, if the decision doesn't have to be made today, I'd like to leave this report on the table until the next meeting as well, because it is now 25 to 5 and we are running out of time.
Well, I'm comfortable with the recommendation.
But it's going to spark off a discussion, and it might be a good idea if Vicky and Yanni could take it offline with you to talk through concerns.
Yes.
And by the time we get to the next meeting, we will either have an agreed position or an amended position.
All right.
Yep, or a contested position. All right.
So you've had to sit here all day and...
That's right.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Because my understanding of this report, the reason for requesting it to start with was to improve notification, not reduce it. So...
Could we have an offline discussion about it? Thank you. Representation review. I have to say I was extremely attracted to a letter to the editor in this morning's paper, which said, leave well alone for the next 3 years. I have to say, I thought this has not turned out the way I would have liked to turn out. No, it can just lie on the table till the next. Eh? No, because I'll do that next time. The report will just get referred to the next meeting. Thanks. I got all excited when I read the letter to the editor this morning that said, for goodness sake, just leave the boundaries as they are, get the city back on its feet and then do it again. I have to say, after all the trouble you've gone to, it's exactly how I felt this morning. But no reflection at all on the amount of work and effort that's gone into it. But it does highlight that we are a city in an incredible state of flux, and because of all of the transitional stuff that's going on at the moment with our very difficult long-term plan, with the district plan review, with all of these challenging issues that we're dealing with, my great hope for this was to be a much more engaged and really open process, and people have just got thoroughly confused. They think that we're trying to increase the number of councillors when in fact we're responding to our legal obligation to look to our representation arrangements and to review them in light of a very embracing and inclusive set of criteria about how people feel in relation to how they elect their representatives and how they contribute to decision making in their own cities and districts. So, what should have been an incredibly positive, and I would have thought to be very empowering and even almost self-defining moment for the city has ended up being quite confused with respect to what we're trying to achieve. But we made a decision at the last meeting to adopt an initial proposal. And I think that if the person who wrote the letter to the editor decides that it would be a good idea to object on the basis that this be put on hold for another 3 years, I'm sure that there would be a degree of support within the city for that, whereas there will be others who'll say, no, let's use the advantage of all the change that's going on in our city at the moment to actually truly reflect the nature of our city as it is today, and reshape it over time, which is why these things are required to be done every 6 years, but they can be done every 3 years. So I guess all of those options are on the table. I know a number of people contributed to the debate last time, talking about workloads and talking about, where people stand and, and all these different things. And of course, the media want to ask questions about where people are going to stand. This has got nothing to do with us as individual councillors. It's to do with the people that we represent, and it is about they having a say about the boundaries for which different representatives will emerge and run. The only person that's elected at large under all of the proposals that we've considered is the Mayor, and I guess that's why I'm sort of starting up our contribution in the way that I hope others take it up. This is not about us, it is about the people that we represent, and it is about the mechanism for electing a council and establishing community boards to represent the different wards. I think we are all agreed that there should be wards. We're all agreed that there should be ongoing reviews of our ward boundaries in the same way as required by our electoral legislation. In fact, it's something that we think is a positive and again an engaging process. So I'm simply going to move for the purposes of having this underway, and Andrew, I think, is putting up his hand so he can second.
That would relate to one small amendment, 3.1.
Okay, well, does someone want to second the motion? Phil? And, sorry, you want to...
I've got 2 questions, if I can, for staff. The hearings dates include some dates when councillors are known not to be available. Now, we've already received advice that all councillors need to be present for all hearings. So I'm requesting that the hearings dates are set out here be revisited to find dates when everybody is available. or other things may need to be moved around to take account of that. But scheduling the hearings for dates when we know that people are not available doesn't allow for all members to be present, and we know that that's a requirement.
So when's this?
No, you don't have to. You've,
But a person who isn't there isn't able to take... A person who misses even as much as half a day isn't able to take part in the decision, are they?
Well, I think Ian had given you some advice on that before or recently. I think there had been probably a stricter approach adopted to that, participating in hearing all the submissions and then in the decision making. So it's you know, you're allowed to pop out for minutes and things and come back and catch up or whatever. But
if
if you were going to miss
missed
all the hearings, you couldn't participate in the decision making at the end.
Sorry,
So if a
when are
person-
the dates? They're from 27th of October to the 31st of October.
Which includes a Saturday.
Yeah.
And includes, so in my own case, I've had the Friday, the 30th, noted that I'm not available, and I'm not available on that Saturday, and that's been in my diary for a long time as not available, and I know there's at least one other councillor who's not available on that Friday as well. So if we agree this with those dates in it, that immediately, from the advice that Ian gave us last time, excludes people who are not going to be available on those dates, when there may be other dates we can find when everybody would be available.
fine, and of course we will try to find dates when everybody's available. In fact, I don't think we need to have these dates actually stated in this table, so we can delete those two lines, and we'll try and work on days around about that time when people can attend. But I've just been up and had another look at the schedule, and whichever days in that period of time when we have to do it, there's only a 6 weeks turnaround there after we get the submissions back. There's only a 6 weeks period before you have to make the final decision. So it's very, very tight, and so whichever days we have it on, we're going to have to move some meetings.
We're going to
So
have to
we'll
have
have a
the
look at
dates.
that.
We're going to have to
Yeah.
have the dates scheduled pretty soon, because I mean, I don't know what you've got in your diary, but you know, I'm free those days, and they're set aside for that purpose. So. Yeah.
But if we could approve this today without those dates
Yeah,
in there,
we'll
so
approve
there's
it
room for
without
that
the dates.
conversation.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, we'll do the best that we can, but not everyone will be able to, just because of people's, you know, sort of personal circumstances. But we'll do the best that we can.
Yes, we will.
Great. And then I had a second question.
Yeah.
My understanding is that 2 reports have been commissioned, one from Bob Shearing and one from Martin Ward. Where are they to be included in the process? Because I don't see any mention of them here, and I would assume that they would need to be tabled prior to the hearings commencing.
Yes, that's correct. 2 independent reports have been commissioned working with the working party, and they will be available at the beginning of this, towards the start of the submissions period, so that they're available. They're going to be comments on the decision coming out of today.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Ali?
Question related to page 246, the Akaroa, Wairua, Littleton, Sumner areas. With regards to the community board members, so we've got the low population numbers there, which clearly we're aware of, and yet with Littleton, Sumner, which has got a combined population of 16 or just over, we've got 5 there. There are 9 in total for around 4,000. I'm talking about community board members. Why is that so high? Why isn't that pro rata or proportionate related to the
Well, it could be.
population?
It could be, but we're trying to replicate the situation with 2 community boards on the peninsula. There's no way to get around that with Akaroa, Wairua. If you're going to have a board over there, you're going to have less population.
Yeah, but why do we have 3 at Sumner?
Well, you could change that in the review if you choose.
No,
to.
look, that's great, but I'm asking the question why though too, because it just seems illogical when you've got subdivision populations above way in excess of 11, which you've got for Sumner, and yet for some reason we have one additional community board member in Sumner. Why would that be?
Well,
Because you've got two different wards. You've got Spraydon, Woolston, Cashmere. You've got 3 wards together, that's 6, and you've only got 5 for Littleton, Sumner. Sumner's more than Sumner. I mean, it's right across through to Heathcote, isn't it?
But I'm looking at population base too.
Yeah.
That's what I understand the reasoning was.
So it was a geographical thing. Right.
Because you're combining Littleton with Sumner and you're representing a wider community.
So Littleton's always going to be, you know, like, you wouldn't just have one person from Littleton.
No.
I mean,
I was asking
you
about
could
the
have
Sumner
one
number.
from Sumner and 4 from.
No, I
mean,
was
4
thinking
from
2
Sumner.
from Sumner and 2 from Littleton.
It is, yeah, it is.
I couldn't understand, though, there was the logic that was missing in it, that's all. I'm just asking.
Double the population. It's double the population. Littleton is 5,271. Sumner's 11,646.
Yep, Fendleton's 19,000 and they have 2 community board members. Harewood is 21,000, they have 2 community board members. I'm looking at the numbers above
Yes,
in the
I know
subdivisions.
you are, but it was always going to be like that when you've got Akaroa Wairewa in one community board. Littleton's getting tucked in with Sumner, and that's the, and it's not just Littleton. It's Diamond Harbour, Governor's Bay.
It is, yeah.
Yes, I know you are, but it's because it's with Littleton.
Yeah. It is.
Can I answer that just from my observation of the maps? That, in fact, the term Sumner also goes right round to Mount Pleasant.
Yes,
so it's
it
a
does.
big geographical area.
It's that whole piece.
Yeah. Question?
Probably I follow the Alice's question because I reviewed this one, particular paragraph 3.7. Some of the area unit, whether we can take time to define clearly. For instance, like Monaville, Rickton have Monaville, Fendleton have a Monaville, but probably cross the boundary, you know, different street, etc. Sackburn, Hornby have Sackburn, Rickton have a Sackburn. Island, Fendleton have Island, and also the Rickton have Island. We still need to define clearly. Otherwise, residents they are not aware where belong to. Yes.
Well,
That's it.
the reason for that is that we try. These are the names of communities from the statistics mesh blocks that are used. So where we've put the ward boundaries, we're trying to make it clear that, well, we have to make it clear that half of one is in one ward and half is in the other ward. So it's very difficult to get around that. Councillor Chen.
Yanni, then Jamie.
I personally do think it's a bit of an anomaly for Sumner to have 3, and I can't. Yeah, I wish I'd picked that up last month when we were discussing it, because it does seem a bit odd that an urban ward would have more representation. So yeah, I just wanted to raise that. Do you want debate now, or you just want questions now?
I'm just doing questions quickly, and then we'll. Hey, I do.
So, I mean, the question is, can we change it now, or are we tied by that earlier decision?
I think you could change it now. Yeah, I can't see why. This is formalising the decision.
Andrew,
I'm
do you
sure
want
you
it
could
reduced
change
to
that.
2 in Sumner?
Do you think?
I would prefer not to reduce it to 2, and of course I would say that. I think there's a concept with community boards that, I mean, I know this is about representation of people, but where a community board has a wider geographical area, as this Littleton Sumner Community Board will, often the issues that community boards deal with are not just people driven, but are also physical things driven. So, you know, the amount of roadway in a community board area, or the number of parking spaces, or the number of trees, or the number of, you know, things that create issues for community boards to deal with. And it worries me that if we reduce Sumner to 2, then you could easily take the argument we should reduce Littleton to 1. And I think to have 1 member for Littleton, which is actually the very diverse communities of Littleton, Governor's Bay, all of the southern bays, including Diamond Harbour, Purau, and across to Port Levy, would then call into question the arrangements we've already made with the Akaroa Wairua board, and the whole thing starts to unravel. So whilst I understand from a purely representing people viewpoint, it would make logical sense to look at reducing those numbers. I think the whole thinking behind what we did with Akaroa Wairua around that decision we've already made, also to an extent that thinking needs to extend to Littleton Harbour, and also needs to extend to some balance within that new community board for Littleton Sumner of realistic balance and fair representation on that board. So you look at the fact that the Sumner population is twice that of the Littleton population, that would lead to we should reduce Littleton down to 1. But then in terms of fair representation for all those different and diverse communities around the harbour and wrapping around into Port Levy, that argument doesn't hold. So I would far prefer to leave it the way that it is so that the whole thing doesn't start to unravel.
By the same token, in Hornby you have 1 to 11,000, and in Riccarton you have 1 to roughly 1 to 11,000, and in Sumner, 3 to 11,000.
Anyone's suggesting reduce the Littleton one, but certainly the Sumner one does seem overrepresented.
So I presume that the Sumner one was put in because the Littleton one was too representative, 5,200. So would it make any difference if we reduced it to 2, and then it would still be 2 from each? The only thing that I think kind of potentially misses out is that Mount Herbert representation, which is the other side of the harbour, which is quite a significant.
I mean, looking at current representation on the Littleton Mount Herbert board, there has historically, and even on this board there is, a reasonably equal weighting between both sides of the harbour. So it would be, I mean, we can't predict who might stand and who might get elected, but looking historically, there has been good representation on that board between the Littleton side and the Diamond Harbour side, and in fact with the by-election we've got a good representative now for the head of the harbour, Governor's Bay Teddington as well. So I don't think there's an assumption that all of the representation with those 2 members would come from Littleton. And I guess if we were going to reduce the numbers in Sumner, it would be based on an argument of Sumner's a urban population, so to bring Sumner into line with other urban populations, then we should reduce it from 3 to 2. It just potentially gives rise of unfair representation on that board for Littleton Harbour once the board has been elected.
That's right.
Yeah, listening into the arguments, I thought it was mainly about continuing the spirit of the arrangements we had with the 2 boards on the peninsula, given the extent of the geographical area more than anything else, and bringing that Littleton and the Sumner area in there with 3 was going to counter that in some way, but I guess it's open to discussion.
The reason for it isn't around the percent, it's not the numbers per population. I know, but it is the merging. The seat doesn't work, but then nor does the... Yeah, I know. You don't have one councillor for 3,000 people.
This is to be clear, this is community
These are community board members. It's 1 councillor for Akaroa Wairua, Littleton Sumner. Littleton Sumner, it's all 4. They've got to, it's the...
Excuse me.
It's the same councillor.
That's not what it says. 9 of the book.
It's the same councillor.
What you see is it's 1 councillor to 19,869 population, and that's consistent within plus 10 minus across the other wards. So the councillor ratios have to be within plus minus 10%.
But the
that's actually not the issue.
boards
The community boards don't. The only discussion about the community board is are they representing, fairly communities of interest in their subdivisions? And I just can't argue that Sumner, in that small geographical area, even though it's got more population than Littleton, should have an extra member.
Well, it has double the population of Littleton.
Yeah.
You knock it down to 2, you give it equal weight as Littleton.
Yeah.
So we're not bound by the percentage rules when we get to the community board. So I think you can validly argue for 3 or 2. The question is, do we leave it at 3 or do we knock it down to 2? I think both are valid arguments.
And I think you have to compare it to the other urban boards and the existing boards as to fairness of representation across across that portfolio. And so my view would be to keep it at 2, which is consistent with all the other community board wards, and would be the most logical. But, people have a different view.
Aren't we approving something to go out for consultation?
Yes,
So,
we are.
yeah,
The question
can we-
is, do we put it out at 2 all or put it out at 2, 3? Yeah, that's true. How many people think it should be reduced to 2? Reduce it to 2. Quickly, just a quick show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Excuse me.
Yeah. 8. No. 8. That's right. So reduce it to 2.
Reduce it to 2.
Yep.
Okay. I was just going to suggest that we could note in these proceedings that you want to reduce it to 2, but we probably don't technically need to do that because you could do that during your
No. Reduce
hearings.
it to 2.
All right.
And you could
Reduce it to 2.
Yeah,
We've
reduce
done
it to
that.
2 because because somebody may not raise it otherwise. All right. So, are there any other questions? Is that a quick question? Yep.
It's actually a question for you, Leanne, if you don't mind, but it was given, well, there's
I know
two...
nothing.
What's that?
Nothing.
Given there's only 5 minutes left, there's no point relitigating too much of this stuff, and it's not too different to really receiving a report, really. So would you mind, there are some things that I agree with the recommendations, some things that I don't. Would you be happy to put them separately?
Yeah. Which one?
Well, it's complicated. I agree with 3.1, I don't agree with 3.2. I agree with 3.3, I don't with 3.4, I don't with...
You want me to put them through individually? Okay, all right, right.
Yeah, there's some that I agree with, some that I don't. It's just convoluted, though.
Well, given that this is going out for, this is the whole process to get it out for public consultation, I would suggest that we limit the debate and we'll vote on each of the recommendations separately. All right. So debate. Do you want to speak to it?
For some speakers for and some against a limited number. If you want to explain.
No. What I was going to invite Yanni as the chair of the working group just to I don't know that people need to have a debate about it. That's
You don't need to relitigate it.
But Yanni is the chair of the working group, and I wanted to invite him to speak.
Very quick, I'll just invite you to watch the video from last month's council meeting where we debated this. All the comments I made then, I think, are still true today. This is just the procedural thing to have had the proposal developed into a form that we can put out. It's not really a debate about the merits of the proposal. We've done that and we've got an agreement. I just want to stress that councillors, we're in a consultation phase, so please think about what you say publicly, and the point that Mayor made was absolutely true at the start of this. This is not about us as individuals, it's not about our personal circumstances, it's not about where we live, it's actually about how do we get a fair system of representative democracy through communities of interest in our city. So we've got pretty clear guidelines from the Local Government Commission. It's not about the quality of councillors, it is about how we actually get the best system of democracy representing those communities of interest. And I just want to commend staff for the huge amount of work that they've done through the mapping and the numbers. It may look fairly simple on the surface. There's a huge amount of effort that goes on behind the scenes to get the numbers to work in a way that we need to do because of what's happened on the peninsula. So I won't say any more than that. Please don't debate the merits of this today. This is a procedural motion just to get this proposal out for consultation.
Yeah. And although I started by saying that we, that the letter to the editor this morning said leave things the way they are, we can't leave things the way they are because of the Banks Peninsula Ward. The Banks Peninsula Ward, we were told by the Local Government Commission, cannot remain as it is because it is outside the percentage tolerance for the difference between the different council representatives. And so once we have to make that change, all of a sudden we're having the debates around the scale of a small community board with a larger community board inside a large ward that has one councillor. All of the wards under this proposal have one councillor, and that is what we will be discussing in the public arena. We'll be inviting the public to have a say, but at the end of the day, this is not the day for making a decision other than for what we go and consult on. So I'll put item 3.1. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Item 3.2. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no.
No.
That's... Oh, well, let's have a vote. Sorry, I can't call that. We already voted on this last time. Yes, I know that, but we agreed last time that that was the vote.
Yeah.
So we don't get to
resolution.
do this. I don't know. I've got asked to split up the votes. No, I can't do this. I'm sorry, but that.
Well, I can't vote yes to something that I don't support.
No. I'm sorry. We voted last time on the substance.
Yeah.
So we're either voting to put this out in the public arena or we're not.
No, that's not true.
Yes, no, that is true. I'm
I'm
sorry. That was the ruling that we made last time. Was that we made the decision at the last meeting, and so we can't go through and have people voting up and down different recommendations.
Then may I ask if you want to do that? Because if that's the case, then I will vote against the whole thing.
That's right. Well, and that's what you have to do.
Which is misleading, because I agree with some aspects of it.
The purpose of the report says formal adoption, so it's clear from the word go.
They're not hard. That's a mock-up.
Can I just say, legally, under the Local Electoral Act, you've got to pass something, the way the resolutions are worded are matched up with the Local Electoral Act, which is what you have to pass today. So that's because the law says, you've got to resolve these things, X, Y and Z. So that's why
so we do have to go through them one by one?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have to have a vote on each separate one of them.
Can I just ask a further question on that? Is it not fair to say that if, say, no vote to 3.2 were carried, that would amount to overturning a previous resolution of council and would require a 75% majority, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Is it, or is that just in the same?
Do that today because we've got.
No, that's just the same. It's in the same meeting. That's in the same meeting. Sorry, so it's not. So if a vote is equal, so if it's 7-all, then it doesn't carry. So that's my problem.
Excuse me, Mayor, I think we've got a slight problem here. I think this is more of a procedural vote today because we have acted on the instructions that we're going out with this, and if this, we'll breach the statutory deadlines if we don't make a decision today
Yes, I
and go out with this.
understand that. Thank you. I understand that, absolutely. Yeah. Which is why I'm a little frustrated that we couldn't have passed a resolution last time that locked this down. I understood that that's exactly what we'd done last time.
Can I just clarify, because the issue that Jamie's talking about is the same issue I have. I don't understand when we talk about this just being procedural. The fact is, if we approve this, or as elected members approve this to go out for consultation, we are clearly showing a support for this.
No, we're not.
Yeah, well, I think you are. How can you not?
I'm sorry. We already decided as a council. It doesn't matter whether you voted for or against it. The council resolution was to adopt this option. This is the option we technically have to go out and consult on. That was the decision we made at the last meeting. And we made that absolutely
crystal clear. But by going out with this, aren't you showing support?
No, it is not, because we have to have an open mind when we go out for consultation. It was the same with the long-term plan. We had to go out with an open mind, listen to the submissions and then make our decision.
Could we have Daryl?
Wait a minute, can I have Daryl?
Could I ask Daryl?
Can I explain it this way? In my view, you have already resolved all of those individual components. You did that at your last meeting.
Yep.
And to change that, you would need to revoke that resolution.
That's right.
What you're doing today is formally adopting the initial proposal to go out for consultation. And in my view, that's all of the components of the issues that you raised last time.
Yep.
and you simply need to have that single resolution to put this out for public consultation at this time.
That's right, and I'm not going to go through it item by item. If you lift up the staff recommendation, it says that the council resolves under sections 19H and J of the Local Electoral Act to adopt the following initial proposal for the Christchurch City Council for the elections to be held in 2016 and elections thereafter until altered by a subsequent decision, and that is what the proposal is. We have made an amendment internally within the document to the numbers to be representing the community board member numbers in the Sumner component of Littleton Sumner, and we have also removed the dates for the starting and ending of oral submissions.
So we just need to change 3.12 as well, because that refers to the number of community board members for each.
3.12.
So we're saying that Littleton Sumner.
So number 3 will go. Sumner will go to 2 as well. All right. So that's the whole thing. And if people don't want to, if you want to vote against the initial proposal going out for public consultation, then you can vote against that. But voting for it to go out for initial consultation or initial proposal for the election, for the elections, the initial proposal, that is not endorsing the initial proposal or supporting the initial proposal. It is simply adopting the initial proposal for public consultation. So it is not. If you voted against the particular resolution, there is nothing to stop you from endorsing this going out for consultation, because we must announce this proposal or a proposal today, well, following today's meeting. Did you have a question?
Yeah, look, I understand what you're saying, but we're actually sending out a recommendation for public consultation, and we're only sending out one of the 3 options, and because it's going out under our umbrella or whatever, there is going to be the perception that that is the preferred option, and I would much prefer.
I was asked to make a comment on this, and I said this is an initial proposal.
Doesn't matter. It's still going to be perceived.
We are required. Look, I said that right from the start. The public perception is guided by the way that this has been commented on, and that has been very inward rather than outward, and that is just the nature of the political environment that we find ourselves in. As I have tried to say to anyone who will listen, this is a legal process. We made all the decisions at the last meeting. It was not unanimous. People expressed strong views in the alternative.
And it was close too.
And it was close. This is the proposal that goes out for consultation. I would suggest that people would take comfort from the fact that there are mixed views around the table, because they know that there will be an open mind, a series of open minds sitting around the table, and when we come to make a final decision as a council, we will take into account the feedback that we receive from across the city. And when we do so, we will do so as councillors for the city, not as representatives of ourselves or the positions that we currently hold. That was the point that I was making right at the very outset, because this is about the people we represent. It is not about us.